Okay. Oh, thank you, thank you.
Does that make sense?
It will. I'm live right now, so I'll answer that in a minute.
Okay.
Thank you. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm 5 News Chief Meteorologist Skot Covert. Thanks for tuning in here this afternoon. We do have one severe thunderstorm warning. This warning, it's a large warning, but the storm itself is moving pretty quickly. So we're actually seeing the portion of the storm that prompted the warning capable of some large hail. We're thinking about 1 inch in diameter, 60-mile-per-hour winds. That's racing off towards the east. Portions of Sebastian County, Franklin, Logan, even Johnson County included in this severe thunderstorm warning. You'll find that that warning set to expire here within the next hour or so. Kind of depends on your actual county there. 1:45 is the time that warning is going to expire for portions of Logan and Johnson County. As you well know, right there on the county line is where the Weather Service out of Tulsa and Little Rock, their different coverage areas meet up. So there's a little bit different warning expiration times there. It's a strong thunderstorm that is now exiting off towards the east of Paris. Soon it's going to be moving into the Clarksville community. That severe thunderstorm warning for 1 inch in diameter hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds possible with this storm. Let's take a closer look into it. What we find anywhere along Highway 109, 197, mostly Highway 22 between Paris and Shoal Creek. That's where the strongest of the storm is right now, there in Logan County. So we're talking Shoal Creek, we're talking Scranton. Soon, that's going to be moving towards the northeast across the Arkansas River over into the Knoxville, Clarksville communities. It's an area that was actually hit with some pretty large hail not too long ago. You'll notice on live radar right now that does bring some rain, heavy rain at times in Scranton, Subiaco, Shoal Creek. It's not going to last a whole lot longer. These storms have been moving somewhat quickly. And because of that, we're probably going to be done with this storm within the next hour or so. Let me also read off to you some other towns that are included in this warning. It's going to include, let's see, Ratcliffe, Coal Hill, Blue Mountain, Hartman, Scranton, Barber, Hinkle, Roseville, Clarksville. A lot of those locations have actually already seen the storm move through. That's how quick this thing is moving. When we look at the hail tracker, what we're going to notice here, there at times have been some larger hailstones. You can see a lot of those hailstones fell just to the east there of Boonville, south of Paris, although you could have seen some small hail in Paris. I'm sure you probably did. If you did, would you let me know? That hail now getting closer to the Shoal Creek area. That's going to be crossing the river there at Morrison Bluff over into Johnson County, likely Knoxville next in line with some of those hailstones. Right now, the radar signature that I'm seeing would indicate near the Subiaco area, we probably do have 1 inch in diameter hail potentially falling out of that cell. Where that blue area there is, that would indicate to us quarter size. That's that 1 inch equivalent. We've not seen much larger than that, which would be some good news. The other potential good news, it's not a safe bet, but another potential good news, it's kind of warm, so maybe some of those hailstones are being measured around 1 inch in diameter there at the radar beam level, and then melting on its way to the surface. Can't say for sure that's happening, but sometimes that does happen, which would be some really good news. At maximum right now, though, we probably are seeing 1-inch in diameter hailstones. We take a look at the winds in this cell, and there certainly have been some very windy conditions now to the east of Shoal Creek, where you find those brighter colors there, getting ready to move into the Knoxville community. That's where radar is right now estimating winds anywhere between about 40 and 60 miles per hour. Sampling those 2 pixels alone, it would indicate about 50 or so mile per hour winds. Given the fact that we're so high in that wind speed category, there's going to be another warning being issued. Weather Service out of Little Rock's drawing that up right now. That will probably include portions of Pope County, and I know we do have some viewers about this in Pope County. So if that's you, just know this, in a matter of probably seconds, if not minutes, or minutes, if not seconds, you'll probably find yourselves under a severe thunderstorm warning for high winds, 60 or so mile per hour winds, as well as that potential for some 1-inch in diameter hail coming out of that storm. It's a very healthy thunderstorm. Right now, everything is radar indicated with it specifically. That's where the strongest portion is, but there are some other showers and some thunderstorms back off towards the west. Boonville's getting another round. South of Charleston, you're getting another round. That's not severe, at least as of the moment, it's not severe, but it is a good old-fashioned heavy rain shower that's going to be passing towards Roseville, back into the Paris community. You can see this is a 1-hour radar loop, and these storms are just racing. In fact, the latest trajectory on these specific cells have them moving at 60 miles per hour. That's nearly interstate speed out there. That's good news in some respect. It can get all these showers and storms out of the area. On the other hand, doesn't give folks downstream a lot of heads up. That warning, which did initially clip portions of Sebastian, Franklin County, that's since been allowed to expire. We're no longer looking at severe weather warnings for either of those 2 counties. Warning itself includes a large chunk of Logan and the southern half of Johnson County. The worst of the storm, though, is really easy to pinpoint. You see where all those reds are, those dark reds, at times some purples. That's going to be where the heaviest rain is. That's where our hail core is potentially going to be. And on the leading edge of that line, now moving into the Knoxville and London communities, that's where winds could be reaching right now 60 or so mile per hour at the quickest. Still looking at 1-inch in diameter hail. I'm taking a look at a few different radar products just to make sure nothing's trying to pulse up, but we're maintaining itself pretty well. It's a healthy thunderstorm. It's so warm. It's so humid. The atmosphere, because of those 2 reasons, is pretty unstable. So this cell probably not going to weaken anytime soon. It is going to be moving quickly over into Pope County. So heads up, that warning is probably going to be popping up on the screen at any moment. You'll see that appear there as well. When we look at the hail tracker right now, the hail falling on Shoal Creek, Morrison Bluff, the Scranton community, that's soon going to be passing into Knoxville. Heads up Knoxville, heads up Piney, heads up Delaware, as well as the London community. That's where that hail and the wind will be making its way here very, very soon. Right now, it looks like the largest of hail is probably right on top of the Arkansas River. Maximum estimated hail size continues to be right around 1 inch in diameter, maybe starting to get just a slight bit bigger there by a little bit. So we'll keep watching that. It wasn't surprise me at all. When you look at the rotation potential, I'm not seeing any. There's no rotation in there. I want to point that out to you. Not that we're expecting a bunch of rotation today, but of course, when we're talking about severe thunderstorms in the middle of May, you have to be kind of curious, right? We take a look at the winds, and we're talking straight line winds. That appears to be the most pressing concern aside from the actual hail potential. And radar right now estimating in the Clarksville community around 50 or so mile per hour winds. That looks to be in Knoxville right now. In a matter of seconds, those winds are going to be in the London community. Those are pushing towards the east-northeast. So that will take some of those high winds yet again back into places like Holman, Bullfrog Valley, Ludwig, Lamar, of course, you're feeling those winds right now. Hickeytown, Augsburg, Ross, some of those communities there in northeast Johnson, northwestern Pope County. We're talking straight line winds and some hail. In addition to that, you've got some blinding heavy downpours. The rain is going to be pretty heavy at times. There's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, so it's not going to take much to get some high precipitation events to occur out there. This is what it looks like on rain mode. You can see that dark blob of red. That is a large rain shield that is also got some embedded hail with it right now. In fact, it looks like, let's see, Okay, that was a report of some large hail coming out of the Mansfield community earlier with this specific cell. So it does have a history of producing some large hail. That's probably ongoing right now. You can see the overall hail track over the last hour. Hail really picked up in intensity there in Logan County. That's why the Weather Service prompted that warning. And you can see that warning does include almost all of Logan, although the worst of the cell is now in east of Paris, north of Highway 22 at this point, getting close to that Morrison Bluff area. Knoxville also seeing some hail moving into your neck of the woods. I'm not sure all of the large hail is going to make it into Clarksville. I do think some hail will certainly, but it looks like the largest of hailstones, up to about an inch in diameter, that may be just to your south. That is going to move into the Knoxville community. Unfortunately, not only is it just hail in Knoxville, you've also got the wind potential. We're talking those straight line winds more than likely moving into the Knoxville right now. They're there, actually. You're going to want to hold on between Clarksville, Lamar, Knoxville. You got to give it about 5 or so more minutes and those winds are going to start to relax. These storms are racing quickly, which means you're not going to have to deal with it for too long, but nonetheless, you've got some very intense winds right now in the Clarksville community. Those winds are probably blowing some of those larger hailstones around, and that's not going to be good news for really anybody there when it comes to some potential hail damage. Radar sweeping that storm right now, as you just saw, from Clarksville through Lamar, Knoxville, not seeing any changes. Winds continue to look right around that 50 or so mile per hour potential. It could get up to 60. That's what the warning is for. That's probably going to be the ceiling, at least as it is right now. Let's hope that doesn't increase. There's enough storm fuel in the atmosphere that certainly could. We take an area-wide look if you're curious what things look like area-wide. Our showers and our thunderstorms today have been very scattered in nature. Not everyone's seen them. Not everyone's going to. But for those storms that do develop, there is going to be that severe weather potential. We see that happening right now in Johnson and Logan County. That new warning I gave you a heads up about that has now been issued for portions of Johnson and Logan. They were already included in one warning, so now there's just a little bit of overlap, but it extends much further into portions of Pope County there. Back off towards the southwest, there's going to be another batch of rain moving into LaFleur County. Right now, things are pretty quiet in northwest Arkansas. Wouldn't rule out a few spotty showers, maybe even a thunderstorm, but the severe weather potential for today is going to look a little bit like this. It's going to be highest the further south and east you go. With the latest Storm Prediction Center outlook that just came out moments ago, it did include Johnson, Logan, and portions of eastern Scott County under that level 2 risk. That's a change that they've made here in the last few minutes. Everyone else there in green, that's going to be a level 1. So we're talking out of a scale of 5. If you're not familiar with the Storm Prediction Center outlook scale, starts at 1 on the low end, goes all the way up to 5. So we're kind of on the lower end of things, but certainly we've seen this thunderstorm that we're tracking right now materialize with some potential of some hail. Starting to get some reports from the Mansfield community that we did have some hail. Wouldn't be surprised to get some of those same reports out of Johnson and Logan, likely over the next, probably the next few minutes. Sometimes those reports come in a little bit after the storm passes because people are just kind of figuring out what just happened, what's the damage look like, and those reports can come in a little bit in a delayed fashion. The warning for Logan and Johnson set to expire at 1:45, so we've got about 15 more minutes. I'll tell you though, I don't think it's going to take that long to get this storm over into the Pope County side of things. And once that happens, you're technically in the viewing area of our Little Rock television station, our sister station, their THV 11. They'll pick up coverage for you. So once the storm passes out of Johnson and Logan, we're going to pass the baton over to them. And of course, we'll be here the rest of the afternoon should something else turn severe. Right now, this is the only storm that is causing any issues. This is the only storm that does have a severe thunderstorm warning, and it's moving into Lamar, Knoxville right now. Things are slowly improving for those of us in Clarksville, Shoal Creek, but things are pretty intense in Knoxville. In fact, that's where I would expect some hail to be falling right now. Still looking at probably anywhere between, let's say, nickel and quarter size hail. That has come down slightly over the last few minutes, which would hopefully continue to be a trend. Unfortunately, that may not actually occur. It may try to pulse back up, just given the fact that the atmosphere is as unstable as it is. This storm is going to have a lot of fuel available to it to continue to keep that updraft healthy, and that's ultimately where these hailstones come from. A healthy updraft that pushes those rain droplets way up into the sky where it's colder, so they start to freeze, and that cycle repeats itself until the point that that hailstone is heavier than the updraft would support it. So if you have a healthy updraft, you're probably going to have some large hailstones. That's likely what's ongoing right now in Knoxville, soon to be the case in Delaware. That storm moving towards the northeast, Russellville, Dardanelle, Dover, London also included in that new severe thunderstorm warning. That one specifically for the folks there expires at 2:15, hours for portions of our viewing area at 1:45. So now exactly 15 minutes to go with that specific cell. We go back into the winds. I need to zoom out a little bit here. It looks like the highest of winds with that specific cell has now exited Johnson County. The highest winds have now pushed into Pope County, and I'll circle kind of where we're looking at here. This is the zone in which you would expect some high winds to be. That's where those brighter, I call them Pepto-Bismol pink colors are. Those pink colors indicate radar indicated high winds, 50 to 60 or so miles per hour. With that said, it's important to keep in mind where we're at in proximity to the actual Doppler radar there in Fort Smith. So we're a ways away. In fact, from the Fort Smith radar, we're actually looking at about, let's see, let me go back over here. We're actually looking at about 4,600 feet above the ground. That's a little bit higher than what we would prefer, but that's just the reality of where we're at between the Fort Smith and the Little Rock radar sites. None of them are going to give us a picture perfect view of the storm. So what we can do, we can discern that at least at 4,500 feet above the ground, there's 50 or so mile per hour winds. Oftentimes in these situations, as those winds are translating down to the surface where you and I are, where damage happens, they're accelerated. That actually increase. So while I may be picking out 50 or so 60 mile per hour wind gust on live radar, we got to keep in mind that here at the surface, it's probably going to be closer to that 60 mile per hour threshold. That storm set to continue tracking off towards the east, still moving at 60 miles per hour. So it's actually moving very quickly, which is some good news for those in Johnson and Pope County. Unfortunately for some, not quick enough. I know that things are loud in Pope County, Johnson and Pope and Logan County. I know the rain's heavy, the winds are high, and you've probably had a little bit of hail and you're ready for this to be over with. You got about 5 or 6 more minutes, and I think a lot of us are going to see conditions gradually improve. There are some showers back off towards the southwest near Paris, Ratcliffe. Those aren't severe. It's just a little bit of rain. That'll move up towards Coal Hill, maybe back over into the Clarksville area. It's this one severe thunderstorm warning, this one cell that has prompted this warning that remains of concern for us here. That hail continues in Knoxville. Probably starting to see some heavier drops mixing in with some of those hailstones there as well. That's going to be right along Highway 359, Interstate 40. We're right along Highway 22 there in Delaware. That community there, right on the Pope-Johnson County line. It does appear, actually that would be the Yell Johnson County line, I believe. It does appear that the new severe thunderstorm warning, well, the old one has been trimmed up, so a good chunk of Logan County that was in the initial warning, they've actually canceled you a little bit early, just given the storms moved off towards the east, so it's no longer of a concern to you. It does still include, though, a very small sliver of eastern Johnson and a very small sliver of eastern Logan County, but pretty much what I'm seeing here is that storm has almost entirely crossed the Arkansas River over into Johnson and Pope counties. So things are quickly improving for a lot of folks in Logan, the exception being Delaware, Arkansas. Delaware, I know things are still somewhat intense for you, so we'll continue tracking this storm for you until the threat's entirely passed, which shouldn't be much longer. Knoxville continues to see some heavy rain, probably some hail mixing in there. That's moving towards Augsburg right now. We'll go back and look at our hail track. And that did bring some good-sized hailstones into the Knoxville community. Also looks like we probably saw some large hail right along Highway 22. That's going to be between Shoal Creek and Delaware there. Specifically, that's going to would have been right along Rock Creek Road, River Mountain Road, Easy Street, south of Riverwood Drive, Little Bigger Drive, and Billy Jack Landing. That was where the Doppler radar indicated some larger, probably close, if not slightly exceeding that 1 inch in diameter threshold, which is a little bit larger than quarter size, just for some context. Time now is 1:34. Our severe thunderstorm warning continues until 1:45 for eastern Johnson, eastern Logan County. Elsewhere, the threat has passed. I'll actually just take off a lot of this data and show you just the warning polygon alone, so you have an idea of who exactly is in it and who is no longer in this warning. It still includes Knoxville, Lamar, Shoal Creek, Morrison Bluff, Delaware, And that is not going to be the case for much longer. This storm is moving so quickly that those communities are likely to be dropped simply because the threat has, for the most part, passed or is passing very quickly. I do think that hail in western Pope County may be coming up just a bit. In fact, some of our other information says we're closer to 1.5-inch diameter hail. That's going to be it's going to be some large hail. We're talking ping pong size hail potentially in western Pope County, not far from the Johnson County line. It's certainly possible we could have seen some of that, or are seeing some of that right now near Delaware. I want to go back into our hail tracker right now, and it would indicate there are some very large hailstones. Yeah, that is coming up, unfortunately, just to the west, north of Delaware. Okay, it came down that scan. Worst way, River Mountain Road, East State Highway 393, Riverside Road. Large hail currently being detected by Doppler radar. That's pretty much going to be on top of the Arkansas River right now at Morrison Bluff, essentially. That's where just to the east, I should say, just to the east of Morrison Bluff. Really close to the Delaware community, north side of Delaware, all the way up to the Arkansas River. Large hail core right there continues. Radar estimates those hailstones could be right now around the size of a quarter, but just one scan ago, if I back this up, it actually briefly pulsed up and could have been producing, it still says quarter, but I think that's going to be a little bit larger than quarter. It would have been closer to ping pong size for a brief moment. Let's hope that trend downward continues, although I suspect it may not actually. I suspect it may pulse back up as it's moving over into the London community. Our coverage here is almost not necessary anymore, just given the fact that this storm has largely moved out of our viewing area. Let's give it just a couple more scans, and then we'll turn the stream back over to you guys. Looks like we got some small hail at Arkansas Nuclear 1 in Russellville, the size of BBs. That would be some good news, that maybe some of that's melting before it actually hits the surface. I'll wait on one more scan here, and then I don't think we're going to be needed for at least a little bit longer. We'll be here if anything else does pulse up and become severe. There's going to be that chance today with these scattered thunderstorms. We've had a weak cold front moving through the area. That weak cold front just enough to produce some thunderstorms. Not everyone saw the rain. Not everyone saw the storms today, and that potential certainly going to continue for likely the next few days. It's going to be active with additional severe weather chances. We'll have more details on that over on 5+, and of course on your 5 News at 4, 5, 6, and 10 later this evening. I'm waiting for that radar beam to scan through one more time before we go ahead and say goodbye to you. There's going to be some rain continuing in Johnson County, but the severe portion of this storm has entirely moved out of our viewing area. So we'll call it quits for now. If something else becomes severe, we'll be right back here on Facebook, YouTube, 5+, and on our free mobile app. And if anywhere else we can get there, we'll try to get there and meet you where you're at. If a tornado warning is issued, that's when we go on television. I wouldn't expect a lot of tornado warnings today, but if